Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to 100 Days of Valheim, the road to Hearth and Home. It's been a while since I really properly played Valheim legit. I've been covering it with news, guides, and at the very beginning stages I was playing it. But I quickly moved on because I have to cover every game under the sun. But I really wanted to get back to Valheim. I really want to experience the game properly before the Hearth and Home update hit. So here is my 100 Days of Valheim, timed just before the launch of Hearth and Home. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find some sort of help maybe, or at least laugh at my many deaths. I've spent over 50 hours recording this on Twitch live, so go and check me out on twitch.tv/JADE-PLAYS-GAMES to catch me playing this, as well as a bunch of other survival games that I'm now going to be doing 100 days of. Completely legit, every single minute I've filmed live on Twitch or YouTube over the last 2 weeks. Enjoy my 100 days of Valheim. So of course, Valheim is a co-op or single player game where you're carried to Valheim by these giant Valkyries to battle Odin's ancient enemies and increasingly difficult bosses. As you try to prove your worth to the gods, we're going to be hunting, crafting, building, and most importantly of all, exploring a huge procedurally generated world. You're dropped into the purgatory landscape of Valheim by the Valkyries, and now it's time to begin. At various steps of the way, we're going to have this guy, Hugin. He is a crow that's here to guide us and give us hints about what to do next. So it's not going to be a hardcore let's play. I don't know about you guys, but I find them just a wee bit too stressful. Let me know if you've survived a stupidly long time in Valheim, but I'm certainly no pro, as you can see. I swiftly got my revenge with my boar club, and then we went and set out a new location for us to build our base. The base building in this game is absolutely one of the best features, and you're probably not going to see much of that, as I tend to build exactly what I need to get through the day rather than that creative. But who knows, hopefully I've got a few days to spare in between slaying all the bosses, and I may be able to give a bit of je ne sais quoi to certain builds. Do they say je ne sais quoi in Viking speak? Maybe not. Through just some very basic gathering of resources, we've quickly unlocked a bunch of tools and of course the crafting bench, the most important feature of the game. Here we're going to be able to get all sorts of new items and new tools. Might be a great idea not to run around naked also. Let's go and get some resources and get our first little base going. Now when I say base, alright, it's technically half a base because I ran out of wood and I wanted to sleep, so I wouldn't have to be doing this in the dark. But you get the idea. We're going to pimp this out, don't worry, just a little bit. Day 2, we carried on getting more resources and unlocking new weapons and tools, including the bow. We also finished off our build using the hoe to flatten out the ground and maybe make this half a shell into something actually a bit more close to a proper base. I'm doing my best to sleep through the night, so we've always got daytime action going on. Day 3, hunting was on our minds as we went and got as much deer, boar hide, and taking on a few grey dwarfs. The equivalent of the Minecraft zombie, annoying and always around. We picked up some flint, got ourselves some upgrades, and first upgrade for our workbench, unlocking a whole bunch of new tools and items for us to go ahead and craft, and making survival just a little bit easier. Before long, I'd already managed to get hold of 3 deer heads, and we summoned forth the first god. Now if you're thinking this is a bit quick, well it kind of is. You're probably better off doing this when you've got a little bit more better weapons or tools, but then again, this Bambi wannabe is actually pretty easy. As long as you've got leather armour, which we managed to get enough scraps from to craft, then you should be okay to take him on with maybe 40 to 60 arrows. El here is not exactly as hard as he maybe makes out. He's got plenty of lightning coming out of his horns, but he's not quick enough for me. Now that battle did take a hell of a long time, so it did go into day 4, but it was still a job well done. If you can get this early, it's going to be amazing because you will get the antler horns, and this is what's going to help you make your first pickaxe. You'll also get your first ability, giving you a boost to your stamina. Just hang it up on the standing stones of where we spawned in. I have the power! We went mushroom snuffling and we come across some skellies that needed to be dealt with as they were guarding the first burial chamber that we was going to go and ransack. This is one of the major steps to progression, going into these burial mounds and getting the circling cores that are guarded by more skellies. It gets pretty dark in these burial chambers, and unfortunately you have to use a weapon, which means no torches, so I apologise for the next 50 days or so without any proper light in some of these dark spaces. But we've got the circling cores, and that was journeying our steps forward to getting a smelter, blacksmiths, and of course being able to craft portals so we can travel fast across the world. And show you guys an easy way to farm these a bit later on when we come across the swamps. Bit of loot and we escaped, and it was the beginning of day 5 soon enough. I used to be a deer, but I took an arrow to the knee and definitely got rid of that boar pretty easily too. We did come across a bunch of grey dwarves and we're on the outskirts of the dark or black forest. I'm going to be going through here to hopefully find some more Surtling cores. I debated keeping up a death counter because, you know, it might be funny to reference every time I die, but I think it would be far too often, so we're not going to do that. I don't need to be reminded of the shame. Quickly got our stuff back, and again it was more war with the grey dwarves. Revenge shall be mine. With our deer pickaxe we were finally able to go and get some copper and some of the tin from the Black Forest. And I come across an eerie spooky village with this summer maypole. So it does take a bit of time, but throughout all of this you are improving your skills gradually and slowly as long as you don't die. And so things were getting slightly easier when we went to go craft and gather some of these hard ores. There's plenty of ruins in the Black Forest. There's also plenty of troll caves, which I thought I might go and explore, and then I decided nope, this isn't for me. Not my proudest Viking movement, but sometimes you got to take these times to just run away. Don't you worry, I didn't take too long before I ran into more trouble. We come across some more skellies guarding another burial chamber, and there were 3 of them, including some archers. These guys are nearly as annoying as the Minecraft skeletons. I tried playing hide and seek with them, but they were just simply too good and too fast. No! Fudge your mum! I only just about made it back to my stuff before I absolutely got roasted once more. 3rd time lucky, we managed to pick up our stuff and get our revenge on the bony fool. So if you're really unlucky, you might only get 3 Surtling cores in a burial chamber, but we managed to luck out and we got quite a few out of this second one as well. Really kind of wish we could have these as decorations, but don't worry, there's still plenty to come. We took out the bone mass pile here and that stopped any more from spawning, and we went and got even more Surtling cores. It was pretty rich at this point. Cue music for the Ghostbusters, as of course we ran into a ghost. Now I'd find these really tough in the past, but yeah, it wasn't as tough as I remember. Maybe I just didn't have any armour at all, but we took out this guy pretty easily. No electroplasm was hurt in the making of this video. More getting rich before we finish the day off finding a place for us to call our new blacksmiths. This is pretty much going to be my second base or first base. I spend a lot of time here because you can't take any of the ores through some of the teleportals that I'm going to show you guys in a minute. But we got our kiln on and we got our smelter, 5 cores a piece, and we're cooking. We are now nearly there in the Bronze Age. Copper and tin first, and then I spent most of day 10 gathering even more copper so we could actually get more bronze and finally work towards making even more upgrades. But I feel like progress was being made. 10 days in and we'd already hit the Bronze Age. This was definitely going well. Lots of crafting, lots of jigging about in my boxes, and we finally had ourselves all the recipes for the bronze armor sets and a whole bunch of bronze tools. I even found time to put a door on my base as we went and gathered more resources on day 11. For sure, these early days are definitely the grindiest. Day 12 was spent doing the same thing, and I had a brand new idea. Why don't I try and make the brand new cart that I've just unlocked the recipe for? A little tip, don't park it close to the water's edge. You're going to see why in just 2 seconds as I gathered more tin and fought off attack from these grey dwarves, especially this toxic one that took me unawares. I had to do a running away job because I just couldn't simply face them. And look what I come back to. My cart was in the water. It took me like 10 minutes to get this bad boy out before finally facing off against the toxic warriors, and I bested them this time when I didn't have 20 of their other mates with them. To be fair, these guys are usually a bit more deadly, but it seems like their toxic spew isn't aiming correctly as it is. It took so long getting through that little episode that day 13 was already begun as I went and got more tin and went back to our base and did some upgrades to our roofs. Day 14 we continued to upgrade our forge with the ADSI and working towards the water cooler, but we needed some more resources first, and you can also see I've got my cauldron going on, so we're going to be making plenty of potions and decent food soon. But we needed some fine wood, and you can only get it from the birch trees. Once we had enough, we put the final touches to upgrade number 3 for our forge. Back to the Black Forest, and we got ourselves some corewood where I got the recipes unlocked for the cultivator and the fine bow. Went to work with my farming, and we are going to grow ourselves the biggest, giantest carrots you've ever seen in your life. Alright, maybe they can't grow that big, but it would be nice if you could get potentially jumbo-sized fruit and veg. That taken up a good few days. Now it was day 18, it was time to do a little bit more foraging, but then I realised I don't actually like the dark. Let's go home. Day 19, more tin and more barrows. It's a very good reason I don't play jump scare games, because they absolutely scare me to death. Oh my god! No! No, 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 no. Rancid remains are no joke, but it was a good thing I'd come in here because I found the stones that show you where the next boss summoning point is. These are super handy to find, and actually I went on a splurge of finding about 4 of these in the space of 2 minutes, showing me where the Elder God would live. It's a hard life being a grey dwarf. All they want to do is just protect their trees, and here I am with my giant axes just chopping everything down. We found some loot in one of these. You can get lots of stuff, so make sure you always forage them. And we went across another bony. Inside the barrow itself, we come across some proper 1-star double hard nut bones. And yes, I did absolutely get wrecked. Once, twice, 3 times a bony. Yes, I ran back and I eventually got my revenge. Also cleared out another who you gonna call, and then we found ourselves some more Surtling cores. And this is what we was making with them. Portals. These are going to help us get across the land. You can't take any ores inside, unprocessed ones at least, or any ingots, but they are definitely helpful for getting across the landscape and then using your ships to transport some of the stuff back. Cue the Doctor Who theme music. Do 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 do. I became Stardew Valley in placing my carrots in just the right way after I got some brand new ones harvested, and we tried to make my base a little bit prettier with maybe some weird hexagon shape. Day 22, I marvelled at my work. I can make a weird shape. I'm not so good maybe at the roofs though. That is a horrendous mess. At least though, the game looks stunning. Is there any other game in the world that looks as pretty and has got as much atmosphere as Valheim? I did spend another full day just marvelling and grabbing more resources before I accidentally fell into the chimney like a really skinny Santa Claus. I am a twisted fire starter. I think I'm going to need a fire extinguisher in and around my base. Day 24, we explored more of the land to try and find a good spot to actually go north. As I already knew where the Elder God was, I definitely would need a boat. We was going to bypass rafts altogether and make ourselves a little carver. So that's what we did. We found a location, we put a crafting bench as well as a portal down, and we got to work in getting the resources over and ready to journey across the sea. We was getting a bit ahead of ourselves though. I did spend most of day 25 gathering copper to make lots of bronze, as we would need bronze nails. This would be a process we would do over and over again to get enough materials to get ourselves either the carve or other stuff in the future. It does get a bit tedious. I kind of want there to be an even more automated way to do it, but nevertheless, that's where we're at. I went back and I made one of my biggest mistakes. I changed the name of the portal and then I went straight into it instead of waiting just a few seconds. So I was effectively marooned at the topmost point of the land and I had a big long walk back. I eventually got the right stuff and I managed to make it back and set up another portal system, and we just about got it right, ready for day 27 when I would set sail. Launching a carve boat into the water, it was now time to go and explore the seas for the first time. Not sure if you meant to smash like a chug of ale against the side of the boat, or maybe we could have tried to find some champagne, but either way we were off our maiden voyage across the seas, a little bit scared about what possibly could lurk into the water, but happy that we were on our way to hopefully find the Elder God. The water in this game is absolutely stunning. Without fail, every time I jump in my boat I'm like, this game is so good though. You can see we come across the Leviathan. These guys have got barnacles on them which you can harvest, and then you can go ahead and make tools, weapons, and most importantly all the harpoon from. It's called the Abysmal Tool or Weapon Set, so definitely go ahead, use your pickaxe to get some of the chitin. Now there's probably going to be a few comments going, no it's not chitin, it's chitin. Yeah, whatever, I'm calling it chitin. I made one fatal error. You can just about get all of this stuff, but you're obviously going to need a bit of stamina to get back to your boat. And I totally forgot on this one crucial aspect. I don't mind hard games, I don't mind it when I get killed because of a game just being a bit of a challenge. What I can't stand is my own stupidity, and this is definitely one of the moments that my own stupidity made me rage. Please, 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 please. Fuck your mum! So I probably could have bleeped that out, but it's part and parcel of my personality swearing. So I'm sorry to any little ones that may have heard that, but sometimes you just got to shout out, F your mum. I spent the rest of day 28 getting enough resources to build a raft and hopefully go and rescue our stranded ship. It will stay there, it should be okay, nothing really will be doing any damage against it. And luckily it wasn't too far away from shore. This time I made sure I got my stuff back before making sure I could do the jump to get onto the cave and sail away. Continuing our journey and the rest of day 28, we finally spotted some swamplands. We were nearly in sight of the Elder God. Just a case of going along the coast and up along this river. You can see the marker on the map, and just got to avoid a few of the rocks that are springing up. Always make sure you bring enough to make portals, and I hadn't done anything stupid. I had enough to make ourselves a portal back. We set up quickly and I went straight through and started thinking about what we would need to take on the Elder God. Day 29 was going to be here. One more day of prep and we'd be ready to face off against the Elder God. I did run into one of these blue meanies and I definitely thought I could take him on. And you know what? I was super proud. I managed to finally beat one of these blue meanies without me actually getting my butt kicked first. In fact, this was the first time I defeated one, and now I had access to making lots of troll armor sets as long as I had enough resources. So we just about got ourselves a pair of trousers, and I went out to get even more stuff so that we'd have maybe the best options like the fine wood bow before taking on the Elder God on day 31. Of course, now I killed one of these blue meanies, I kind of got a taste for it, and I definitely needed that taste. I tried creeping up on this guy, and I obviously tried using my hammer. Never use a hammer, always use a knife. No, that axe does absolutely nothing against the troll. But why get owned by just simply one troll when you can get owned by two? So I've definitely got to work on my close-up combat skills, but with a bow I am literally Legolas, I swear. I put a nice little base down just to repair some of my tools and weapons. We went to work on the second troll and we took him out no problem. Day 32 and it was time to fulfill my destiny with the ancient seeds needed to summon forth the Elder God. Of course I can't count, we needed one more ancient seed. Luckily there was a grey dwarf spawner nearby, so we quickly got another one and we began our second boss battle. Go. Here we go. Maybe I should have waited till my health like proper replenished up. Yes Jade, maybe you should have waited. I started this fight off pretty badly. I didn't have my fire arrows equipped, which I thought would do a very good job against obviously a guy made out of wood, and it spent a bit of time trying to mess around as I couldn't even get them properly in there. Eventually though I got done by the tendrils and it was looking like I would be running once more for my loot. But I feel like I've grown as a Viking. I've become more resilient and I can pretty much run away a lot quicker now. So I got all my stamina back and fired off a bunch of pot shots, pretty much cheesing him, hiding behind the stone pillar and running away anytime the tendrils appeared. When you do it like that, it's fairly easy to take this guy on. Yes! Oh, but the second boss defeated. Woo yeah! Do not also forget them tendrils can still get you sometimes, so don't hang around there too much until they actually disappear. We got ourselves our swamp key as well as the tribute to lay upon the stones and activate the new power. It pretty much just gives you the ability to chop trees a little bit quicker and a little bit better. All together now, I have the power! As I was enjoying day 33, just minding my own business, we experienced our first proper attack from the swamps. A foul stench, no doubt. These can be pretty tough, especially when you're a bit low level and not so great at combat. I was absolutely getting owned, I had to go and hide back inside, and I was using the wrong weapons. Don't do what I do, kids. Make sure you've always got something sharp. I then did my best impression of Benny Hill, grabbed my stuff and legged it as I'd had a whole train of mobs after me, and I managed to jump on top of my really crap roof. Yay, see? Bad design can actually help you. Feeling brave, even though I really shouldn't have, I dropped down to see if I could take out some of these burnies, but it was all simply too much and I got pwned again. But I would not die, not another time, so again I legged it and I had them chasing all after me. I thought I was safe, I was wrong. Where are my goddamn walls? I eventually put an arrow through this bony skull and the horrible attack was over. They'd left and I was pretty much in ruins. Things were getting a bit tight around my forge base as well, so started to upgrade it and expand it a little bit, adding a nice new little bedroom as well as more space for all of the potential upgrades that we're going to be making. Pretty much more the same stuff on day 35, and curiously when I decided that I was going to be destroying or repairing items around me, I still had the X on the option. So instead I just planted loads of these around like some mad noughts and crosses player, just without the noughts. Anywho, we had space now at least. I was going to start putting my fermenter down in a second, but we did need some more carrots as well. So luckily my carrot seeds were ready to pop, and it's a bit of a process doing that. I know there's lots of tips about placing them in the right spot. Do leave them down below if you've got any other tips for growing your crops. But eventually we had all that done, and I realised I'm going to need honey to make a lot of the fermentations and the potions that I want. So we quickly ran around to see if we could find any in these ruins. Pretty amazing. I'd gone to day 36 without actually finding a piece of honey. And of course, crucially, the bees, so that I could actually start growing or making my own honey. Day 37, we decided to go back to the swamps and see if we could find a good location to set up our next portal waypoint. We did come across some more blue minis, and guess what? No, that was stupid. That was really stupid. I'm not sure if that's really stupid or I'm just really stupid. We did manage to get our loot back, and I definitely wanted some more helpings of more stupidity. Like, is the stag breaker a viable weapon? Can anyone actually tell me what it's really good for? Maybe a bunch of smaller adds, but certainly not big guys like him. We did come across a few more bonies, and we looked out upon the swamp for the first time proper. I wasn't really planning on going full out exploring the whole of it. I just wanted to have a little taste. So we jumped down it and got ourselves some ancient wood and seen what was going on, maybe some other smaller mobs. And of course, yep, the mobs did end up chasing me. So we pretty much legged it out there as soon as we could. And this is where I really need to take lessons in just being patient. Instead of making my escape as I was right on the edge, I thought, no, I'm Billy Big Balls. I can handle the swamp. Let's go back in. I did get some sausages out them dudes, or the entrails to make sausages, before I was set upon by a slime. In every other game, the slimes are like the easiest things to kill. But in Valheim, nope, they're pretty OP. And yes, I realise they're not called slimes, but I'm still going to call them slimes, because to me they look like slimes. Not blobs, not oozes, just slimes. We got our stuff back, and of course we did get the items to make one of the new bombs. We got back to base, and that was pretty much day 38, about to start again, before we got attacked again by more blue meanies. I wish I could tell you that my skills are getting better. I wish by, at this point, nearly 40 days in, that my combat skills are on par with like the best Dark Souls player going. I wish I could tell you a lot of things, even maybe that I've got 12-inch Willy, but I haven't got none of that stuff because I got absolutely owned once more by the blue freaks. As it was an event, they did disappear before I could get my revenge, but I got my stuff back and consoled myself with some more farming and setting out my carrots. Coming up to the end of day 38, we managed to find ourselves some more bees, and we also got ourselves a bunch more copper, as I really felt like we needed upgrades for the swamp. Day 39, and it's a miserable wet one. We totally needed to go grinding for the bronze now, so it was back and forth, and eventually we did make some tools and some better weapons. Again, no, these blue meanies absolutely wrecked me. Eventually I might get good, but for now, yep, I'm still a noob. I couldn't let this one slide, so I went back and I finally got my revenge on him, albeit from range, and carried on the grind to get more bronze. After all the constant attacks, I just needed a bit of a low-key day, so I just went and gathered some resources, carried on smelting, and made even more bronze tools. In fact, it was a good 2 days of pretty much just gathering resources and being as safe as possible without any drama, getting more and more copper ore made, as well as tin, to make the bronze. I absolutely love that Valheim doesn't make you cost resources just to repair some items, and it was also now time to test out my bronze armor set that I just made. I was going to finally defeat a troll inside proper armed combat. That's if I ever actually made it inside the cave. Once inside, yes, the predictable happened. I took my eye off the ball just a little bit too much and I got pwned. But I will have my vengeance, and vengeance I did have eventually, taking him down with the last swing. It was just to make me brown bread once more. If you're fairly new to Valheim, the reason I'm getting attacked so much specifically from swamp creatures is because you generally get attacks from the creature that you're about to fight from. You can get some random attacks that come and hit your base, but pretty much I've got to go and defeat bone mass if I want to stop the swamp creatures from taking me on. It's kind of like a reminder what you should be doing next. This is why I was getting this event attacking my base quite a lot. The troll one I was getting because you do get it once you've killed a couple of trolls. So top tip, if you don't want to die a lot, don't go ahead and kill a bunch of trolls too early. Make sure you've got nice bases and you won't have them come along try and destroy your base. The swamp one you can't really do much about. I figure we could probably put some defences down, and that may be something I need a little bit of help or guidance on in the future, or possibly definitely a good amount of days just burrowing a big trench around my base. But I'm probably going to make a super base somewhere else. This has always just been what was meant to be my little kind of smelting area only. Although as you can see, it's starting to get a bit bigger. We've got plenty of the portals now lined up, and we are kind of making this the main one more and more. I ventured out in the daytime on day 44 to go and get some more tin and some more resources and carry on making some of the stuff we needed, like especially a bronze sword upgrade. Hopefully this is going to do a better job than my axe, which I've been using this whole time. So much of Valheim is micromanagement, putting things on cook before you go out, like I'd been forgetting to make some of the potions now that I had the brewery. So I quickly remedied that, and day 45 I decided to go and explore the swamp a little bit more, try and find a little bit of a waypoint that I could get close and go and hopefully find some of the iron. The swamps are no joke. You may be recommended to only come here once you get some anti-poison potions made and crafted. That said, as long as you're quick on your feet and you've got plenty of stamina foods, you should be able to avoid quite a lot of the enemies. Just make sure you don't spend too long in the water or the leeches are going to get you. I finally found a sunken crypt, and this was where I was going to put my next portal area. On top of the crypts is a top tip that some of you ratbags have been helping me out with in Twitch chat. By the way, if you do want to see me play this game on a more regular basis and others of 100 days, then go and follow me on Twitch TV/JADE-PLAYS-GAMES. Plug, 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 plug. I admit I was a bit too cocky thinking I was safe up here, that I couldn't be got, and I did get getted by one of these oozes and it was slowly poisoning me. I was praying that I might last long enough, but the poison just simply does too much damage. But it's so good to have a portal to another world, or at least back to where I just died, picked up my stuff and finished off the job taking on these oozes. They do split up into two smaller blobs, so again that's something to be careful of, and I had plenty of health for me this time, so I didn't have to worry too much about being poisoned. I would manage to survive. We used the swamp key and our first journey in to the sunken crypts. You'll find plenty more blobs as well as obviously the Draugrs in here, so be careful. You don't necessarily want to get owned too much, but this is obviously where you're going to get iron scraps, and we're going to get it from these big massive piles. Once we took out some of the enemies nearby, there's plenty of loot also found in some of these chests. Particularly you want to look for chains that you might get as a drop from some Draugrs, or you might find it in here, and that helps make a bellow a particular upgrade you need too. So we've got some Withered Bones. We're going to need them to summon forth one of the bosses soon in the future. And we went about our business finishing off the plundering and looting of these sunken crypts. I did get incredibly lucky while exploring this one. Once I took out this blob, we found one of the stones that reveals the location of Bowmass, the next boss in our sights. And he wasn't too far away. He was still north, but it was all in one general direction, so I wouldn't have to go back on myself. So it looked like a good find. Some more plundering, some more bow and arrowing, and eventually we escaped with a good haul upon our back. Leaving the metal scraps inside a chest, and I've went through my portal, made some anti-poison potions and slept ready for day 46. Another low-key day, just tending to my stock as well as making some more food and potions before day 47 sprung on us. It was now time to maybe think about going to the swamp properly. Except there was one little problem. I needed a bunch of grey dwarf eyes. I needed them to make some of the portals that I wanted to take with me and have a good system. Of course, we also got waylaid by another foul smell coming from the swamps, and eventually we did manage to take these guys on, although I did die once more. Too many. Just overwhelmed you. I headed over to the dark forest to see if we could find some more of the grey dwarfs, and I come across another blue meanie. And can you guess what happened next? I am pretty just bad at this game, it has to be said. Maybe I've been playing it all wrong. I'm just not a brawler. Maybe I've got to be more silent assassin-y type, and that's exactly what I tried the next two goes, using my dagger, creeping up on these and taking them and finishing them off. And it nearly worked. It so nearly worked. I just had to die one more time. Eventually I found a grey dwarf spawner, and this was going to be perfect to pretty much farm grey dwarf eyes. Either an interrupting blue meanie didn't stop me, and I managed to take this guy on finally. I won one without actually dying. I finally had enough grey dwarf eyes to last a lifetime, and there's plenty more resources there that I maybe need to go back for, as I've kind of forgot about them. Day 49, we was back on the honey trail as we needed some more bees to really start making some of these potions proper. Also sorted out some more portals and we went back to the standing stones so I could fast travel and activate my powers whenever I wanted. We had 3 bees producing honey now and we started making even more fermenting stuff, including some healing potions. They'll come in a couple days once they're all fermented up. I also made a warning system. One of these ward stones, it stops other players from destroying your stuff, but it also means that enemies can't attack you without setting off a warning. So definitely make one even if you're just playing single player. Day 51 and it was time to bring that metal ore home. Pretty much I had all the scrap ready in the chest, I just needed to get my ship up there. I did set out without actually repairing it and it was nearly destroyed, so I had to make a quick pit stop in the swamp. You never want to do this. This is like the worst thing you can do. With so many of the mobs around me, this was a bad idea, Bubba. Doesn't help when you're prone to panicking like I am, and once I had a bunch of mobs on me, I absolutely cacked myself and had to run away. I was so proud of myself. I was managing to actually stay alive. I did get poisoned, but I had some of the anti-poison potions and they make such a difference. So make sure you've always got one of them on you. You can see the damage. I was still sustaining, but it was definitely a lot better, and I definitely had help with the healing potions that I'd managed to grab just before I left. It really is a grindy game, Valheim, and for sure, moments like this, it really does get to you after a little while. But it's definitely rewarding once you make these moments. And I got back to my portal, had everything almost ready, and was going to be setting sail very soon. A few more upgrades and maybe one more run through the sunken crypt to get as much of the metal scraps as possible, as well as any other resources like the glowing mushrooms that are good for stamina, and obviously more riches in some of the chests once I took out some more Draugrs and the blobs. I'm totally like one of them kids that sees something shiny and has to go investigate, and I did find a stone tower that I had to go and investigate while I was transporting some of my ores. But of course I wasn't fully prepared and I was making some really stupid decisions, like using my pointy sword to pretty much hit at rock sticks. I did get rid of the little mass spawner there, and I did maybe try and take on this guy just a little bit too much. No! You son of a dog! The stamina drain. We were deep into day 53 and I just wanted to get my final few bits and hopefully get the hell out of the swamp, never to return, not for a good while at least. The ship can hold quite a bit of the metal scraps though, so I wanted to make sure I filled it with every last ounce, and day 54 I've spent more time prepping and getting more resources before one more final journey into the crypts. Quick nip home to get some more carrots grown just while we make the journey, and we were ready. We're finally setting sail. Hands down, this would be one of the most nerve-wracking and the most dangerous. If you get attacked by sea serpents and you don't manage to get away, you could potentially spend hours and days trying to get your stuff back, especially when you got a haul of the iron scraps like I did. We did encounter some rough seas, and you can see how far I had to go out the way to make it back to the coast. I decided not to go to the northern point like I'd planned and instead sail along the coast all the way closer to my base, and it kind of worked out eventually. I took a few with me back to my base as I went to go and get my car, and we were now fully in the Iron Age. Day 56 we did exactly what I said. We went and got our resources, albeit with a little bit of trouble from some runaway carts. God damn, I hate these things. But eventually we did do it. We managed to get the car out and we made a successful run home with every single piece of that iron scrap, enough to make us a tool, weapon and at least one armor piece. I quickly crafted some iron nails and that unlocks a bunch more stuff, including the longship. We might not be making that anytime soon, maybe towards the end if I do get enough iron, and we started upgrading our benches. Day 57 we had another attack from the trolls, and I just can't defeat these on my own. I definitely need lessons in handling them. I thought I was going to be Billy Big Balls. Billy Big Balls indeed. Even the safety of the base was not going to be there as they carried on destroying me. Thank God the actual event finished, otherwise I could have found my base completely and utterly gone. I spent the next 2 days smelting and getting all of that iron nicely cooked up, upgrading our forge and just carrying on getting more upgrades and new weapons. We got all the stuff ready for the blacksmith, we just need a few more bits, and we even got a stone cutter done and dusted too. This would give us access to stone foundations in the future. So far I'm pretty pleased with the runtime. At this point it's about 60 days in 35 minutes. That's not bad, as day 60 began with just even more using stuff up around my base to make it look a bit prettier and carry on getting them vital upgrades. Now I say vital, To be honest, unless you've got a lot of iron weapons and tools, you don't necessarily need to upgrade every single piece. Obviously it is progression, but yeah, you generally need a lot of iron to do even more upgrades. Day 61 I spent just farming, getting prepped, getting some more copper, and 62 I then went and started making more foodstuffs, more potions, and started thinking about possibly trying to find bone mass. It was really super satisfying having all materials now though to start making iron stuff. I got an iron sword, an iron banded shield, that should have maybe give a bit of colour to, and we got ourselves an iron helmet. It meant I was still a little bit nimble, a bit light and not as heavy running around in just full suited armour. We got an iron pickaxe as well and we was nearly ready to go. Just a few bits of maintenance in and around, upgrading some of our tools, our armour sets, particularly my troll set, and I even had time for a little chair rest and a cup of Rosie Lee. Back and forth I'd come across some more honey and we got more fine wood as I again got sat upon by the blue meanies. And yes, I didn't still manage to defeat 2 of them. Oh no! I'm awful! I really wanted revenge. I was a little bit testy. So I went after him trying to get one of them at least to come back, and we had a little bit of a cat and mouse game where I come forward, they turn around, I run away, I come forward once more. Eventually one of them despawned and that meant there was just one of you guys and I was definitely going to take you on this time. I got my revenge eventually, at least on one of them, and I felt pretty good about myself. Day 63 I spent more time messing around with portals, getting more honey and generally just a little bit of upkeep before venturing back into the swamps. It was day 64 and I'd vowed that I would find bone mass by the end of day 70. So I needed some circling cores to make more portals and this was the best way to do it. You can find the circling monsters inside the swamps and you'll see a vein of fire popping out of the water. So once I took down the mobs and you can pretty much burrow down all around it, this is instant circling cores. They're going to die the minute they spawn and it means that I can pick up them really super easily. Pretty much farming the circling. Got lucky with this Draugr heads drop, apparently I can make a hammer with that a bit later on, and just refined my little area before finding at last some turnip seeds. Super rare, super hard to grow sometimes, so make sure you do find them and get them if you've got the chance. This was a good day's adventuring. I also took out some of the leeches and got the blood bags and got medium potions too. It was now nearly time to go. One more rejig of my portals, a quick harvest of some carrots and growing them turnips and just getting a few more vital resources. The main one being grey dwarf eyes. I'd actually dismantled one of my portals to the north, so I had to go through the Black Forest trying to find some more, but it was pretty slim pickings. I'd spent a whole day looking for them, and so it was time to go back and start fresh on day 66. The journey to bone mass was going to be a long one. He was way north from where I'd obviously come back with all of that scrap iron, and so yeah, it was a big long sail through lots of misty lands as well as staying close to the edges of the coast. We did come across another Leviathan with more barnacles, but I wasn't risking it this time. I made sure I only just got a few, and the minute it started shaking and splashing about, I decided to jump back on my ship. I definitely needed some of this though, because I hadn't actually made the proper harpoon with the remnants of the chitin, so now I had enough once eventually we got a portal. I carried on going and I eventually found a grey dwarf spawn, and definitely needed, as we needed some of them to make more portals. 2 shaman groupies wanted to join me on my journey, and it's a shame. I reckon they would have come in handy, but adventuring alone I was in the beautiful rendering of the ocean as the sun set. We're halfway there now, but there was just one big problem. There seemed to be a huge mass of land in between us, so I had to sail all the way around the coast. And something happened unexpected. I ran into the plains biome. This is one of the most deadly areas that you can exist in Valheim. I didn't want to get too close because of the death of mosquitoes, so I tried to keep my distance as much as I could, but we were still nowhere near bone mass. So I had to make the executive decision to go to land, not risk it, put a portal up as quickly as possible, and at least I'd have a return point in case anything did go wrong. We just about got it set up and done, and I felt a lot more confident. So much so that when the death squeaker did come by, I took him out easy, no problemos. You can get these cloudberries in the plains biome as well, and that gave me more access to more medium potions. And look at the beautiful birch. I've been struggling to get the refined woods that you get from this for ages and ages, taking me too long to get some of it. So I'm definitely going to be back here to get a big forest full of it very soon. We come across a Foolin goblin. These guys are super tough. You shouldn't be trying to face them unless you've got proper big medium potions as well as maybe iron armor sets. But he was a lone spearman, so I fought brave. I felt like I could maybe take him on, and it was a close battle just against one of them. There's usually like 5 or 6 of these guys. Although it did give me my first piece of black metal. After that, I had to decide whether to go across the country and see if I could maybe survive through lots of the plains biomes, or possibly go around with my boat. I decided to go back home and see what was occurring, maybe make sure I had everything repaired. Of course though, I spawned at the wrong point. I'd set my portals up wrong, and so I had another long run all the way back to my base. Eventually I did make it though, and day 68 I repaired, got ready again, and we was ready to go. A death run to Bowmass. I must have got 100 yards before I realised this was a terrible idea. I was absolutely going to get owned. So I got back in my boat and kept the safe option, keeping the coast just in sight so no death squeakers would come out and sting me, and trying to do with the wind going right against me. Eventually we ended up sideways, and I felt like this was it. This was the point where I could get so close. So we landed at the swamp area, made sure I had the stamina ability from killing Elfer, and made sure I had stamina potions and a good amount of food, and we decided just to run like I'd never run before. I can't underestimate how dangerous it is running around the plains biomes with absolutely not the right gear or equipment. But I had to do it as the swamp was in a really peculiar place, and eventually we did find the Bowmass summoning point. I set up a portal very close by on one of the sunken crypts, and we were ready to go. 69 days we'd managed to find Bowmass. So I wasn't about to just jump straight in against the big old Slimer. We needed to do some more prep. So I got my honey together and we started thinking about getting our turnips ready to go. I'd already planted a few and now they were ready. I finally had some so I could make turnip soup. Probably one of the best items in the game, as well as a bunch of other potions we were definitely going to need. On day 70 I made a catastrophic error. I decided I wanted to get a brand new weapon, and instead of making a mace, which chat had told me to do on Twitch, I went ahead and made an ancient spear. I like spears. I'd used them quite a lot in my first playthrough. I'd taken out the first 2 bosses with them, so I felt like it was a good move to get the ancient bark spear. It's pretty much dog poo. I got so desperate in need of trying to get Bowmass quickly, I also went and demolished pretty much my whole forge area to get the resources to do some minor upgrades. I still didn't have a full iron gear either. Basically I wasn't prepared, but I went and tried my best. I flattened out the earth and I tried my new spear on the Draugr, and this is when I realised I'd kind of made a big mistake. But by this point we were already committed. Day 71 we summoned Bowmass using 10 of the Withered Bones, and we went to work on him. And yes, of course I was not prepared. Fire arrows do nothing. Stagbreaker does nothing to keep the ads away. For some reason I thought it'd be good for multiple mobs, but really there is a real pattern to Bowmass that I hadn't learned. But this taught me a valuable lesson. It basically taught me how to die, how to get poisoned, and how to get owned by a huge blobby green thing. I spent a lot of time trying to kite him, wear him down slowly, and he just kept regenerating his health. I was barely doing any damage with the weapons I had. My iron sword was absolute rubbish too, and there were so many ads spawning. Oh, just go, just get away for a second, just get away. So yeah, I died a lot, a massive lot. I had one more go at all these ads, and I did pretty well. I managed to survive this encounter. But then Bowmass took one final swipe at me, and that was my lot. I'd have to go and regroup and get more resources. And that's exactly what we did on day 72. I went back to the drawing board. I thought about how I could get iron. I needed it. I needed lots of other items too. But the problem was I was all the way in the north where Bowmass was. I didn't want to have to sail my ship all the way down. So instead I decided I would make a mini forge here right next to Bowmass. He couldn't get me from where I was. I went and started farming up some Surtling cores as we'd need them for portals, and of course a brand new smelter. And that took the majority of day 72. It took a fair amount of work to still get all the resources, and I've built it on top of one of the crypts below. That's where I would be getting a lot of my metal and having some of the most painful experiences I'd had in my 100 days of Valheim. We defended against a nasty little invasion of these guys, and I went to work. By day 74 we were up and running, and I was full blown getting all my metal. I decided to add some more protection around the base. Before realising, yes, I am an absolute stupid Viking because I hadn't got any copper. We was going to need it if we was going to make the forge so that I could upgrade some of my tools and maybe even get a full iron suit. So I went exploring around the lands on day 75 and I couldn't find anything. Although I did find plenty of food. I did a whole massive loop pretty much around a massive mountain, and we found a bunch more in the distance too. So I've got a good idea where possibly we could look once eventually we're ready for Moda. We were pretty close to the plains and I had an encounter with a death Skeeto and I was pretty proud of this lucky shot. Hawkeye the Viking. Anyone else think the map looks like a demon with a green lip? On the way home, just as I was mentioning it, we come across a wraith and I quickly did the sensible thing. I ran away. And just as we got back to base, I ran across some Loxes as well. So it was good to know they were pretty close by. I'm not going to lie, I'd done this in pretty much a rush. With Hearth and Home approaching, I was really wanting to get this done and I hadn't left myself enough time. So I'd kind of forgotten about resting bonuses. So we quickly decorated, adding some of the trophies around, as well as a beautiful rug to try and get me some better bonuses. Finally had enough turnips to actually make the turnip stew, and that was going to help out massively against Bowmass and in future. And we finally found some copper. I found a tiny sliver. I did get a bit of help from one of my rat bags who would come in handy come day 90 when we was looking for a trader. He pretty much went and checked the map and just gave me a general direction. That's probably the only help I've had in my 100 days on Twitch or YouTube live streaming, so I figure that's okay. We took on a wolf and I got myself some fur. We're gonna need a lot of them in the future, but it was nice to take on one of these guys and remember how OP they can be. By day 78 we were ready to go and it was time to start thinking about what we'd need to get more upgrades. I quickly though discovered I was going to need obviously the iron mace, and we went to town on making one. I had to test it out though, and these blue meanies were finally about to meet their match. You've seen it all throughout this adventure. These guys would just not leave me alone and I barely ever won against them, especially when there was two of them. But not today, sir. No, today I become a man. Or I become a mace. One of them two. Yeah! I turned into Super Chef on day 79 as we prepped and got more food, and I sorted out my potions. I'd only had kind of minor ones and maybe only a few mediums. So we finally unlocked the recipe for medium healing, and that was definitely going to help out too. Day 80 we carried on getting upgrades for our forge. We was going to need to upgrade our weapons and, like I said, try and get a full iron suit. I am contemplating whether or not it's a great mechanic that you can't take the ores through. I understand why you can't. The developers have clearly stated that they don't want it to be pretty much too easy, and if you can teleport everywhere then you won't enjoy it or the experience of exploring. But man, it does get on my wick sometimes. Day 81 I went to the plains where we dropped off one portal on our way to Bowmass, and I decided to go and get some fine wood. I also carried on testing my mace out against some of these goblins, and you know what, it was doing okay. I only had a problem when I ran into another death Squeeto. You can't win them all. I checked my stats just to make sure all these deaths weren't really impacting me too much, and yeah, I probably hadn't grown as quickly as I wanted to with some of my skills, and we got our stuff back and carried on getting some fine wood until I saw two big massive goblin brutes and I legged it back home. By day 82 we'd already upgraded our iron shield, but now we definitely need to get some more, and I had an absolute nightmare with some of these guys. I didn't realise there was a spawner on the floor and they absolutely wrecked me over and over again. This is probably the worst dying loop I've had in Valheim in all this time. I'd been streaming quite a bit, so I guess I was a bit tired. I maybe should have prepped a little bit more, and I was making them stupid mistakes you do when you've kind of got the Viking blood rush. Honestly, I was going to let this all play out just so you could have a bit of a fun laugh at all the times I died and my reactions, but it's mostly me just saying the F word. I love dying so much, I actually spent 2 days doing this, trying to get my stuff back. Like I said, I was just being a bit of a noob, and once again showing that the spear is absolute trash. After a lot of mucking about though, I eventually got rid of the spawner on the 5th or 6th try. But these Draugr had one more death to inflict on me before I escaped. Okay, they inflicted 2 more deaths on me before I finally got in there and finished them off for good. Do let me know the most frustrating time you've had in Valheim. I'm sure this is probably going to be it in this 100 days. Like I've said, with so much of this game being about preparation and making sure you're not making stupid mistakes, it was definitely on me. Day 85 I finally got back and started carrying on upgrading and getting more gear, and day 86 we carried on mining for all that iron, as well as doing some crazy little moves in the rain. Day 86 we were nearly there. I had the iron greaves, we were basically full iron age now. All I had to do was just do a bit more prep. I went AFK just to get a drink, and obviously I made the mistake of leaving myself in the open. Luckily they didn't destroy my portal. Fuck right off. I'll spare you the other Fs as well as me rustling around with a sweet wrapper. I couldn't let this travesty go. I had to go and finish him off, and that's what we did. And it gave me another opportunity using my mace, getting a bit of practice, as well as the fuelings that had been coming over ever since we activated Bowmass. Speaking of the green Teletubby, it was time to take him on once more, and I was fully prepared. Full iron gear, lots of medium potions, lots of the best foods, and absolutely he was 10 times easier. Obviously because I actually defeated him. Spoilers, it did still take a while. Bit of practice, a bit of patience. I was also kind of lucky as there was no ads spawning. He did throw his rocks a few times, I did run into a couple, but there was nowhere near as many as the last time that I took him on. So I don't know if I accidentally triggered something, or maybe I just ran across a bunch of mobs and dragged them with me, but certainly this time was a lot easier. I just was really super patient, ran away when he's throwing up, get back, heal, and then go back after him after a while, using the right kind of abilities as well, and just trying to avoid and make sure I always had a potion. There were a couple close calls, like when he nearly got me through the tree there, but eventually I whittled him down, 3 or 4 hits, making sure I always try and get that parry shot in. And absolutely 100% the mace does the job. Get a mace, people, always have one to face him. Come on! Yes! Wishbone in my hand, I honestly felt so happy. I didn't think we'd even get to this point. After facing him that first time and getting wrecked so easily, I just didn't think I'd have it in me to grind away, get the necessary upgrades. You really probably do need upgrades 2 and 3 with your iron suits, as well as obviously making sure your shield and your mace are fully upgraded as well. Bowmass's abilities are pretty sick, giving you resistance, a whole bunch against all sorts of afflictions and damage types. So definitely worthy when you're going into battle next time. I got a chance to try out my wishbone on day 89, Treasure Seeker's Joy, as I got loot in these chests, and I started to think about finding the trader. Again, this is the only part where I actually got some help. Hobgoblin, shout out to you, mate. You gave me a vague clue of heading south, and eventually I would find the trader. Oh my god though, it took me ages. In fact, it took a whole full day and night before eventually finding a trader. We had plenty of adventures along the way. I also come across a abandoned Draugr village. I love these, I love the way they're set out. I definitely want to come back here, clear it out, and maybe make it mine. Really does feel like we're reaching the end game, but we've still got 2 more bosses to go, Moda and Yagaloth, and I've got absolutely no clue where they are. I do obviously know where the mountains are, and so we will be looking for them soon. I set up a portal as soon as I did find the trader, and we went to work at buying all these beautiful items. I built out quite a good supply, obviously going through all of the sunken crypts. We've got plenty of treasure, and I had just enough though still to buy every single item. The belt would come in handy, meaning that I should be able to mine and get stuff a little bit quicker now, as I'll be able to carry more, and certainly if I needed any more iron I'll be able to see the way as I go through them dark dingy crypts. I even had enough spare to buy the bobble hat, and I got everything else including Ymir flesh, which I don't actually know what it does just yet. One little look at my map before this epic 5-hour stream was finished, and you can see how far I travelled just to find him. And that was pretty much the end of day 91. Day 92 I spent the majority of it fishing, trying to see how things were working out and whether or not I could actually enjoy it. And nope, I can't stand fishing. Not in real life, not in computer games, especially when I wasn't doing it correctly. I'm pretty sure that's not how you're meant to fish. Day 93, I made mead at last. I'd soon be raising a glass to Odin, and I decided to go and get more resources, particularly for the frost resistance. We needed lots of bud bags and we needed lots of thistle. So I ran around the swamps and we headed towards the northern direction. I'd seen quite a large mountain that way, and it was the largest one I'd come across during my travels, so I was kind of hoping it might at least lead me to where Moda could be. I did run into a few issues, having to go and get my armour back from the swamp dogs that they are, but I also discovered you get a bunch of ancient wood in them chests. We arrived at the foot of the mountains. I surveyed where we'd come from, the dark, dank swamps, and where we'd be going to, the cold, frosty mountains. Things were going well. I decided to return home and I made a massive error in my portals. I'd accidentally set the wrong one and I was stuck at the traders or at the swamp. I couldn't get back to my bases. I have no idea why, but I spent too long making a semi-little base next to the trader before going back to the swamp and deciding just to run for it, eventually making my way back to base a whole day later. The rest of day 94 I spent crafting up my frost resistance as well as getting the rest of my mead sorted and some more supplies. We were going to need a huge amount of different types of foods, particularly to give me health and stamina if we was going to explore the mountains. The rest of day 95 we took to go and get fine wood from the plains biomes. We did have a few issues with some of these goddamn goblins, but I did just about get enough of the fine wood to make it worthwhile, even if I did die a couple of times. The main reason I needed it was to make another fermenter. Everything was just going a bit too slow, so I decided to speed the process up. I had just enough resources and we were away. We had our frost resistance potion. It was time on day 96 to think about properly exploring the mountains. Right next to where I'd set up my first little portal way forward point, I found this tower and decided it'd be the perfect outpost. I cleared all the skeletons and we made a pretty horrendous, terrible structure, just enough to give me enough protection to sleep and set up a portal so we could travel back to our base. And off we set on day 97, filled with hope, filled with a lot of potions and mead. We were gonna rock this. I had plenty of stamina, I was taking on walls, albeit still with some horrendous aim. But I have to say, I actually really enjoyed running around the mountains. This is the first time I'd done it completely legit without actually ever dying. Any other time I'd come here, I was always dying of frostbite, and now I was okay. The resistance potion was doing the job. I was taking down walls left, right and centre. I found obsidian that unlocked a bunch of new items, and we definitely would be crafting a lot of this as soon as possible. What used to be so scary back when I first started playing Valheim, the very thought of coming here solo, surviving, taking on drakes and the wolves, I didn't think I'd ever be able to do this completely legit. I'm so glad that I spent the time actually playing the game properly legit. Maybe I didn't defeat all 5 bosses in this first 100 days, but we've got to leave something for the next 100, right? The frost resistance was definitely doing the job, and I found taking down even drakes pretty easy. I did run into a stone golem and I quickly run away because I did not want any of that smoke. I don't know why I thought this was a good idea to just stop and start eating straight there either, but I just about avoided his massive fist. I dealt with a few more wolves and then I felt a tingle. What could it be? My wishbone was speaking. It was directing me to this big silver piece that was actually sticking out the mountain, so it was pretty hard to miss. I quickly got to work and we got our first silver piece of ore. I was set upon by another bunch of drakes, but for some reason the silver was kind of protecting me. Maybe it was giving me a bit of a cushion against their icy blast. They really weren't doing much damage at all. I did manage to scramble down and get some of the resources that they dropped also. So we got more silver and we pretty much did that into the night. Using my new heavy belt to have more stuff on me, we quickly went back to our outpost. I took a little scan of the tool cupboard and other stuff that we can now possibly think about making, and I decided that I definitely needed a little bit more resources, so we went to work again on getting plenty of fine wood. I'd switched out into my lighter gear. This was a big mistake. The goblins were no joke, even in full iron upgraded stuff, so yeah, don't do this kids. Day 99 I decided we had to move a little bit and focus on that outpost up in the foot of the mountains being our main smelting point. It had everything we needed. We could get copper from the dark forest, we'd get swamp, obviously we'd get iron, and from the mountains we'd get silver. It was a bit of a journey across. I had to go across the plains, but eventually we made it back to where I'd left my boat, all the way back before we took on and found bone mass. We really wasn't that far. I just sailed across the bay and took in a little bit of the sailing. As day 99 was here, it really was an experience, and this is a favourite part of the game sometimes. It's just sitting back, seeing the sights, feeling the atmosphere of the sale. Absolutely love this game, and I hope you guys have enjoyed my 100 days. If you want to see more, please do leave a like, make sure you subscribe and check out the rest of my Valheim content, and also follow me on Twitch where you get to see me record and play these every day. I know, an unusual time to put the plug in, but as you saw, we made it back to our base and day 100 was here. We'd finally done it. I'd got everything I needed to set up a new retreat. We were going to go and explore the mountains further and hopefully come across Moda, and that's where we'll kick off the next 100 days challenge. And what a challenge or adventure it will be, with the hearth and home adding a whole bunch of new building items, new resources, weapons, and a whole revamp. It feels a bit odd actually putting this out so close to that. I hope this stands as a kind of time capsule for a lot of players that maybe have only just jumped into Valheim. This is what the game kind of was before the Hearth and Home update hit. This is how we used to fight bosses. This is how we used to manage our potions and make our foods. And hopefully you'll see a big change between this and what the Hearth and Home revamp has done. Of course, the bosses are still going to be there. We've still got to face Moda and Yagaloth, as well as maybe start exploring some of the other darker areas in preparation for the Mistlands update. I'm going to be there every single step of the way. Anytime Valheim gets an update, anytime I've got something new to show you, anytime the devs talk, give interviews, or give us a little bit of information about something, I'll be the first, as always. Thank you so much for watching. If you've got this far, you are an absolute warrior Viking.